Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Makers Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, and today with me, I have an amazing human being, Mr. David Medansky. Did I say that correct, David? I just want to make
Yes,
sure.
Dr. L. Thank you for
Awesome.
having me as a guest today.
Very cool. Likewise. David is also known as the health guy, and I'm very delighted to have him here. He's been part of our community. I love how he shows up in the world, and I wanted you guys to tune in, kind of pay attention to what he's got to say, because this can affect your family life and those that you care about. So, David, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we're going to talk about today and how you got involved doing it in the first place?
Would love to. Thank you. When it comes to eating healthy and living a healthy lifestyle, we all know what to do. We just don't do it. And it's not so much what we can do, it's what we will do.
Mhm.
I got my wake-up call in July of 2016. That's when my doctor told me, based on my lab results and that I was fat, I had a 95% chance for a fatal heart attack. He gave me two options: lose weight or find a new doctor. And he strongly encouraged me to find a new doctor because he'd been after me for 8 years to lose the weight. And if I did lose weight on a diet, I gained it all back. Sometimes I gained even more. This time was different. The light bulb went off. And during the next 4 months, I shed 50 pounds, nearly 25% of my total body weight. And more importantly, I've kept it off. And then in June of 2022, at age 67, I hiked up Mount Kilimanjaro. So
Nice.
age should not be a factor if we're the 50 plus generation. And what's going on with kids today is too many of them are overweight and obese. And it's because of what they're learning from the parents and how they're eating and their lifestyle. I want to make an impact on people by teaching what I call 9 simple golden rules to live a healthy lifestyle. And we'll go through those today if you'd like.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Actually, there were so many things there. First of all, I'm a mountaineer, so I definitely connect with that. Secondly, I was in a very similar shoe as far as my longevity and my state of health. And also, lastly, the advice that was given. And like you said, um, it's not about what we can do, it's about what we will do. And that part is really important because everybody knows fruits and veggies or whatever is good for you, but ultimately, how many of you are consistently doing that? So, David, really, really important stuff. I'm hoping that we can get to all the 9 points, but let's talk about this first of all. What have you seen since then, as far as your exposure to families, the challenges that they're having, people who are struggling to gain control of their health? What seems to be the typical problem that they come to you for?
I used to believe that being overweight was caused by um, eating too much uh, sugar and uh, eating too much in general. However, I now believe it's because of convenience. It's easier to go through the drive-through. It's easier to order a pizza or have it delivered. It's easier to pick up a bucket of fried chicken on our way home or get a frozen meal and throw it in the microwave. So when I was growing up, my parents were home and my mom prepared meals. And so we ate at the dinner table together. Now families are not eating together. And a lot of times they're eating in the car when they go through the drive-through because everybody's busy. So convenience is what's causing a lot of the issues today because we've gotten lazier. We just don't want to take the 5 or 10 minutes to get the ingredients at the grocery store, and we don't want to take the 5 or 10 minutes to prepare a meal. People think it takes a lot of time to cook. It really doesn't.
Right. I love what you just mentioned, and you're talking to the right audience here because we have a lot of proactive parents. The reason they're tuning in is because they want to actually address things and invest in things that actually make life easier down the road as opposed to convenience right now. So I really appreciate you bringing that point up. So yes, and when we have a situation, the go-go life, the hectic lifestyle, parents being pulled in different directions, kids are being given all these things to do, how can we make it all come together and how can we change our mindset to not go for the low-hanging fruit, the pizza, the drive-through?
Well, the first thing people should do is implement what I call golden rule number one, which is to drink more water. And the reason I say that is our bodies are 60 to 70% water, not soda, diet soda, fruit juices, or milk. And a lot of times when we think we're hungry, we're actually thirsty. A person can go 40, 50 days without food. Very few people can go more than 3 or 4 days without water or some form of liquid. So that's the importance of staying hydrated. So that's the first thing, is eliminate the soda, diet soda, fruit juices, and milk, and drink more water. And I say pure water. What I'm talking about pure water is either distilled water, spring water, or reverse osmosis water. Now, if you ask one expert, they'll tell you spring water is the best. If you ask another, they'll say distilled water. And if you ask a third expert, they'll say reverse osmosis. So I just leave it to the person's preference as to what they want to do.
Got it. What is your preference on that?
I am using reverse osmosis now. For 40 years, I was drinking distilled water. And the reason I changed is because when COVID hit, the price of distilled water dramatically increased, and it was less expensive to do the reverse osmosis. Also, my mentor, Dr. David Friedman, who wrote Food Sanity, suggested reverse osmosis. That's what he drinks.
Would you say that reverse osmosis involves having more, or I guess minerals or electrolytes in the water as well, or no?
No, what you need when you get a reverse osmosis is a 6-stage filtering system. And you really don't need the EV light. It heats up the water, can cause problems. So just a 6-stage filtering system. The one I use and recommend is iSpring.
Mhm.
I don't make any money from them. It's very easy to install. I did it myself, and I'm not mechanically inclined. So it doesn't require special parts or equipment. So that's what I tell people. It's inexpensive. You can get it on Amazon. I think it's around $225.
Got it. I have a question for you. When it comes to these drinks, these waters that are supposedly they have minerals or electrolytes added, is that considered water or it's not? When we're
No,
talking,
it's not. That's a marketing gimmick. A lot of times they're using chemicals. They're not. So you don't want to put the extra chemicals in your body. What I tell people is you can add fresh lemon if you like, or have a jug of water. When you go to a resort, a lot of times you'll see in the lobby that they have these big jugs of water, and they put in the fruits, the berries. Well, you can do that at home and treat yourself, and that way the water is absorbing the nutrients that you need. But I always advise clients to avoid the flavored waters.
Mhm. Got it.
It's just, again, it's not so much about the food we're eating, it's what they've done to the food that we're eating.
Well said. All right. So, guys, if you're just tuning in, I just wanted to reiterate, we talked about basically obesity and making sure that we stay healthy. And one of the pitfalls was convenience and going for that convenient low-hanging fruit. And the very first tip that David has given us so far is to make sure you stay hydrated with the proper source for hydration. All right, David, I like this. We've already jam-packed this with lots of tips and insight.
Oh,
Yeah.
one quick thing about the water, people always ask, well, how much should I drink? A minimum of 64 ounces, preference 1/2 of your total body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, drink 100 ounces of water. If you weigh 160 pounds, drink 80 ounces of water.
Okay. So in other words, the more you lose weight, the less water you have to drink.
Exactly. And if you're doing a lot of physical activity or you're exercising, then you need to drink more.
Right. Perfect. So most people that tend to lose weight tend to be more active. So you have to put the water back on again. So I love it. All right. So what's the next tip, or so I have a question for you, because while hydration, I've personally experienced this, as sometimes when I'm hungry, simply drinking water makes that hunger go away, and you do not need to put the extra calories in. So I totally get that. But sometimes when people are really strapped, whether it's willpower, whether it's time, whatever it happens, there is that issue of convenience. How can we go ahead and set or stack the cards in our favor so that we don't get to the point where we have no choice but to go for that convenient drive-through, for instance?
Well, sometimes you just don't have a choice, and you just make a better decision of what you're going to order off the menu.
Got it.
So if you're going to order a hamburger, get it plain, eat it without the bun.
Mhm.
When people, go through McDonald's or Burger King, usually they get the sandwiches that are loaded with the sauces, the mayonnaise, the ketchup, the mustards, the lettuce, onion, tomato, double cheese, bacon, barbecue sauce, and everything else. Well, you just get a plain burger and eat it with a knife and fork.
Right.
That's a healthier choice when it's not as convenient. Now, if you're driving, I order sometimes a breakfast sandwich without the hydrogenated cheese that they put on.
Right. Right.
This is basically an egg or bacon and egg. I eat bacon. I like bacon. So I tell people, if you don't like something that's healthy for you, don't eat it, because you won't continue to eat it. So if you don't like Brussels sprouts or kale, don't eat it. Figure out what you do like to eat that you enjoy and focus on that, because what we focus on expands. Right. So instead of saying, oh, I need to avoid this and this and this, focus on what you're going to eat. Focus on the apple or the pear or the cherries or the blueberries or blackberries or strawberries you're going to eat. And that way you're thinking about that rather than the Hershey bar or the Snickers bar or the can of soda.
So, David, I think you just mentioned something that is very instrumental. There's this myth that healthy foods are not tasty, that you don't look forward to eating when you're eating healthy foods, or that it's not sustainable. And you just address all of that with this one tip, that find something that's healthy for you that you like, and you can have that for life. And that's something that, you can sustain, basically. So really cool.
It's about creating new habits that you like, right, habits that you enjoy, and habits that work for you, because we're all different. Right. The other thing is, who says we have to eat breakfast cereal for breakfast? Oh, gee, was it Kellogg's or Post or the food companies? So if you're going to have breakfast, it means to break the fast. You can eat whatever you want as long as it's healthy.
I love it. I love it. I totally love it.
I would avoid those sugary, chemical loaded toxic cereals to begin with.
Absolutely. Really, thank you for what you do. This is really instrumental. You make my life so much easier. As a physician, it's always so difficult to do this, but you also mentioned habits. So let's go back to the issue of habits, because we also know that this lifestyle also ultimately develops some bad habits where you don't even know that you're making poor decisions, or the decisions that you're making are habit forming, as in like food addictions and things like that. Any suggestions or tips as far as getting yourself out of those kind of situations?
Yes, I like to tell a story that I find is very fascinating. You probably heard it, maybe not. It's called the pot roast story. And simply, lady was hosting a dinner party and she made a pot roast. One of the guests says, "Oh, this is delicious. Can I get the recipe?" The host says, "Of course." She writes it down and gives it to the guest. The guest looks at it and says, "Why do you cut the ends of the pot roast off before you cook it?" And the host says, "I don't know. That's how my mother taught me." So the host the next day calls her mother and she says, "Mom, why do we cut the ends of the pot roast off before we cook it?" And her mother says, "I'm not sure. That's how your grandmother taught me. Call your grandmother." So the host calls the grandmother, and the grandmother says, "Oh, because when I was first married, the pot that I had to cook the pot roast was too small, so I had to cut the ends off to make it fit." Well, that's what we do. We eat a certain way or eat certain things because that's how we were taught. So start questioning, why am I eating this? When am I eating this? Where am I eating this? Why? And how are you eating it? And when you start questioning things and looking at things, then you might say, do I really need to keep doing it this way? And so awareness is the first way to be aware of a bad habit. And then the other thing is to replace it with a new habit and give it time. Research shows on average, it takes 66 days, and that's on average, to create a new habit. not 30 days, not 21 days, in a matter of being consistent and given in a long period of time. So again, that's why people who make New Year's resolutions to go to the gym and eat healthy and get fit usually fail after 3 or 4 weeks, because they're not being consistent, they're not giving it enough time, and a lot of times they're not seeing immediate results. One of the examples I like to use, a client I had, his name was David also, and he was following my advice, and after 3 weeks, he's saying, the scale hasn't moved. I'm still weighing the same. My question to him was, are you exercising more? He says, yeah, I'm riding my bike and I'm walking, 5 miles a day. And I said, well, how do your clothes feel? He says, they're actually loose and people are asking me if I'm losing weight. The scale is not moving though. I said, don't go by the scale. The scale is not a good indicator. Go by how your clothes feel. The reason being, he was replacing the fat with muscle, and muscle and fat weigh the same. 5 pounds is 5 pounds. The difference is muscle takes up less room than the fat. It's denser. So go by how your clothes are feeling. A lot of times when you replace the sodas and diet sodas and fruit juices with water, you'll have better mental clarity, especially if you reduce the sugar intake and the white flour intake. And a lot of this is all hidden in the foods that are processed and manufactured. So read the labels. A lot of people read the nutrition fact labels wrong. They'll look at the calories, they'll look at serving size, they'll look at sodium, protein, sugars. Very few people read the ingredients. It's in fine print. And there's a reason it's in the very fine print. They don't want you knowing what's in it.
Right. It's amazing how many times I've picked up a bottle of oil and it says olive oil, and you read it and it has all kinds of other oils in it. It's like, why does it say olive oil when it has all these other things? Yeah.
Well, same thing with stevia.
Right.
Most of the grocery stores don't have pure stevia. It'll say stevia or stevia blend. It's got fructose, dextrose, sucrose in it, maltose,
Maltodextrin. Yeah.
everything, So again, make sure the label says pure stevia, and that's what the ingredients say.
Right.
It's important. Tuna, it says packed in water on the front. However, if you read the ingredients on the back, it'll say tuna, water, vegetable broth, and sea salt or salt. Well, what's in that vegetable broth? Well, they can put up to 168 different compounds in the vegetable broth without disclosing what's in there. So again, I look for tuna that says tuna packed in water, that just says tuna, water, and sea salt, and that's it.
Wonderful. David, this is really fascinating stuff. I love hearing it. You're preaching to the choir here, so I really love it. And I know that time is short. So how can people find out more about you and your insights?
They can go to one of two places. The first one is stopdieting.co. I wasn't able to afford the M, so it's stopdieting.co, or jadedhealth.com. And jaded is spelled JADEDHEALTH.com.
Awesome. Thank you
I'm
so much.
also on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Awesome. So guys, I'm going to put the details in the description box. Make sure that you go and check and connect with David. Powerful resource. And his head is in the right way. He's explaining it in a beautiful fashion, so it's easy to understand. And once you understand something, it's a lot easier to actually make educated decisions and not need constant hand-holding when you understand how to read a label or all those other details. So please make sure you connect with him. Also role model this behavior to your children. That's, we don't always have the answers, and it's okay not to know the answers, but we need to be able to reach out, seek help, connect with people who have our interest at heart and are good people in the world. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you click subscribe on the channel so you get notified of all the experts that come in sharing their gifts and their expertise with you. David, once again, I really appreciate you being here today with us. Thank you for the insights. You gave tons of knowledge today, so I really appreciate that. Audience members, thank you for being here with us. Before we finish, David, any final words for our audience?
Yes, one final thought. If you go to jadedhealth.com, you can get a free downloadable PDF of The Moral of the Story Is, which are 17 short stories with life lessons. And I've applied those life lessons to eating healthy and living a healthy lifestyle. And you can also get a free copy of a PDF of the 9 simple golden rules to live a healthy life.
Cool. Yeah, we just covered one or two of them, and that in itself is going to be fundamental for you guys changing your health and turning it up for the better. So I appreciate it. Thank you, David. That was very nice of you. All right. Until next time, guys. Cheers.